All right, welcome to the February Citizen Involvement Committee meeting. Looks like we actually have some members and visitors in the audience. Thank you for attending. We'll start off with our roll call. Our Secretary, Dennis Anderson.
Yes, Barclay Hills?
Here. Here.
Kanema? Yes.
Here.
Caulfield? Here. Gaffney Lane?
Yes.
McLaughlin?
Rita's here, but Janice is ill.
Okay. Park Place? Here. Rivercrest? Tower Vista? Okay.
Okay. Inadvertently, public comment got left off of the agenda, so we'll be adding that in after the presentation. So that will be our new item 3. And all public comments are at that time. We don't actually take comments on the agenda items at the time of agenda. We take them during public comment.
We got this all.
Okay.
So first up, we have Rochelle with Parks and Rec.
All right. I'll hand this to you.
Sure.
Right. Okay, good evening. My name is Rochelle Anderholm-Parsh, and I'm the Aquatic and Recreation Manager for the City of Oregon City. And I'm just going to take a moment to tell you about a art and poetry contest that Oregon City Parks and Recreation has put together in honor of May, which is Historic Preservation Month. And so if you could help us spread the word to your neighborhood associations, and we're hoping to get youth involved ages 11 to 16. And the goal is to have the youth engaged in Oregon City's history and write a piece of poetry or paint a piece of art that is relevant to Oregon City's history. So it might be a historic site, a historic story, could be anything along those lines. So we're hoping that you would help spread the word and get these kids active. We've partnered with the Optimists, and so there is the pieces will be juried, and then there is a monetary award for the pieces for second and third. And then the 12 pieces that win will be on a rotating exhibit throughout the community. So, and we're hoping to do that for about 6 to 8 months. And so these kids can go see their pieces of art and poetry at local sites in Oregon City. So thank you for letting me bring that to your attention, and hopefully, we can get the word out there and get the youth involved. So great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Pete, you're up next.
Thank you. I'm handing out copies of public notice, and that's what I'm going to base my presentation on, which will be very short. Thank you, Chair Wilhite and Citizen Involvement Committee members. I'm here to discuss a proposed legislative application. This is a proposal to add a previously unmapped wetland to the city's Natural Resources Overlay District. And our city code protects water quality and the functions of streams and wetlands by surrounding those wetlands and water features with what's called a vegetative corridor, which serves as a buffer between features like that and proposed development. The city does not regulate the wetlands themselves. What we regulate is that vegetative corridor around those features, so that if there's an impact to that vegetative corridor, then a land use application needs to be filed to assess the impact on that vegetative corridor and mitigate for any impacts to it. It does not preclude the use of property, but it does apply additional standards to development in that overlay district. And this application, it's a legislative application. If it is approved, then future development within the vegetative corridor would be subject to the provisions of Oregon City Municipal Code Chapter 17.49. There has already been quite a bit of discussion, starting with direction to move forward with this project in May 2017, based on a request from the Natural Resources Committee. And on this notice, you can see some additional dates of meetings that was discussed at. The first public hearing to consider this amendment will be held next Monday night at the Planning Commission here at City Hall at 7 p.m. And the notice that was sent out, this one, was sent to all properties within 300 feet of this wetland, and there's a map on the back that indicates the wetland, as well as to the affected properties, the owners themselves. In total, this application would affect approximately 5 properties, and you can see the extent of the proposed vegetative corridor here. And so we just published the Planning Commission agenda an hour ago, and I received 2 public comments today, which I attached to that agenda from Karen Blaha of Kanema and also from Dennis. Thank you for that. And so that's in the Planning Commission agenda. And so that's all I have to say about this, unless you have some questions for me.
Does anybody have questions for Pete? I think the purpose that Pete just thought he would come because Dennis brought it up at the last meeting,
Yeah. So I would encourage anybody who has comments or questions to bring them to the Planning Commission. You can also send them to me before the meeting, and I'll send them along. And then that will be the first hearing. There may be more. And then what happens after that is the Planning Commission can make a recommendation to the City Commission. They may take the recommendation from staff as is, or they may modify it based on the input that they get at the public hearings. And then the City Commission will make that decision. Thank you.
So this was just informative. We don't have any say or anything said here is not going to be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not a public
It's
hearing.
not a public hearing, so.
Right.
But Linda, did you have a question or did you?
I did have a question, because you came to our Kanema Neighborhood Association, and there are probably 20 people there, and I think we agreed to write a letter not supporting this. I think that was, I don't know if you were there then, but that was the agreement afterwards. And at that point, you had not been to the site? Have you been to the site yet?
Oh, I've been to the
that's
site a
okay.
few times, yeah.
but-
I've seen it from the public
But
right
my
away.
real question is, looking at your little map here, the green area is supposed to be the wet, or the water?
The green area indicates the extent of the delineated wetland itself. And that's the wet edge, of the wetland,
Because
yeah.
that's just huge. I mean, I've been there, and I don't think it's probably any more than 24 inches, and this looks like it's the whole.
Well, this is what we took from the Department of State Lands delineated map, and that's the extent of it on those tax lots. So it affects the tax lots that were the subject of the cottage housing development.
But on lot 450,
An address 450, yeah.
it's just a little drizzle. It's like 20 inches wide.
Okay. Well, this is the delineation that was done and accepted by the Department of State Lands in 2016. And so those delineations, according to the Department of State Lands, they're good for 5 years. They may change, but we don't go out and re-inventory them every time. Yeah. Thank you.
Just curious on the city's perspective in the future of preserving wetlands in general, because wetlands are crucial in drainage water that goes into the Willamette River. And actually, with South End being above, filtering system huge for going in the Willamette River.
Yeah.
Just curious in the future what the city's perspective is on preserving wetlands.
Well, we're about to, and Laura's going to talk about this in a little bit. We're about to go into a comprehensive plan update that's going to last quite a long time and get a lot of public input on that very issue, along with any others. But the principal way that we regulate waterways within the city limits and rivers and streams that are significant is through Oregon City Municipal Code 1749, which is our natural resources overlay district. So if it's going to be protected and regulated, then it needs to be a feature that is identified according to the methodology that the state requires us to use, which is the Oregon, I won't go into detail, but there's a methodology that we're required to follow. The last time we did that was in 1999, so the wetland inventory that we have and is what we base the Natural Resources Overlay District on is a little bit out of date, but for the most part, the wetlands that are identified in that inventory are within or touching our existing Natural Resources Overlay District, so we regulate them.
Is the city's
This is the only
future,
one that we don't regulate.
is the city's future in development looking at coexisting with wetlands in some way and preserving those, and then also with trees in general?
Yeah, that is kind of the purpose of the overlay district, is to assure that the goals of development and the protection of natural resources and streams are balanced, and they are what we call Goal 5 resources because they're subject to statewide planning Goal 5, which is all about protecting natural resources along with the other statewide planning goals. So that's the not just the intent, but the requirement from the state.
And one other thing, does the city outsource like an advice in terms of developing an area before they decide on that with like outsourcing consultant or of some sort? Because just on how things are done?
Well, what the planning department does is review development that is proposed to make sure that it complies with whatever code is in place. Some of those developments fall within our overlay district. So we have a code that we use to regulate that. And that applies not just to private development, but also to city projects as well. So if there's a road being proposed or a capital improvement like Malala Avenue widening or something like that, and if that widening is going to affect this natural resource overlay district, the city is subject to those same regulations.
We have the same issues in Barclay Hills with Newell Creek.
Sure, yeah,
So,
that's in the overlay, yeah.
so.
John, you had a question?
Yeah, these four numbers of 450, 462, are people living, are those residents people are living in?
So those are the addresses for the cottage development that was approved there. They're not all finished yet. So we assign addresses ahead of time.
Okay, so people, when they buy the property, know there's a wetlands there. They didn't make a wetlands after people were living there.
Well,
I'm just curious.
I would assume they know what they're buying. That is a very good question, though. I mean, in the interest of the disclosure to those future residents, I would expect that they would do their due diligence and ask the city what we know of and what the site plan. It's on the site plan that was approved. The wetlands shown on all the plans. So, yeah.
Linda?
One of the homeowners, though, has owned her home for over 23 years. And when she purchased that home 23 years ago, it was not a designated wetland or any such thing. And she purchased this home thinking that someday, when she gets to her senior years, that she would build an ADU or something on one of these lots. And now with the additional requirements that have just come up, she probably will not be able to do that. So she's owned it for 23 years. And
that's what the hearings are for, yeah. Right, we don't have,
it's just information. Yeah.
right, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pete. All right, Laura, come on up and tell us about this comprehensive plan update again.
Good evening, Laura Turway. I serve the city as our community development director. I am here to chat about our comprehensive plan. There we go. What is your vision for the future of Oregon City 20 years down the road? How would you address stream protection, historic preservation, adequacy of infrastructure, tree protection? Do you think it's the same as the person sitting next to you, or your neighbors, or people in Oregon City you have yet to meet? Well, the purpose of a comprehensive plan is to create a unified vision. So when you ask questions about how does the city view wetland protection or other things, that we have a response for that. So comprehensive plans connect things together. They reflect what the interests and the needs are of the community so that we can direct resources in order to best support our citizens. It identifies priorities. We coordinate activities and investments, so there's a funding component that goes with our budget in there too. And it helps inform decisions. For example, how do we address growth? What are their criteria when someone wants to annex into the city? Those types of things. Also, in addition to what we want, we have some regulations that we have to meet, both federal requirements, state requirements, and metro requirements. Often you'll hear reference to state land use goals, 19 goals. And so what the comprehensive plan does is it gives us an avenue to take these general requirements and put our own lens on that and understand how do we want to implement these larger goals. So a goal may be to preserve protection of the environment or something very general. And then through our comprehensive plan, we can identify exactly how we're going to approach that problem, what programs go in place, what code provisions go in place, and how do our departments work together to support a common vision for the city. Here's an example of a statewide planning goal 1, which requires the city to develop a citizen involvement program that ensures the opportunity for citizens to be involved in all phases of the planning process. There's more to it, but it's rather broad. It allows jurisdictions a lot of authority to do different things. So here's just some of our policies from our comprehensive plan. Obviously, these are excerpts or the names of goals and policies that implement that. Our comprehensive plan includes large goals and then some more prescriptive policies, but those policies are still rather general. For example, a policy on community education and just making sure that we can provide the community with information about what we're doing so that they can better participate. So this is an example of how we have general statewide planning goals or other requirements, and our comprehensive plan helps us further that. But it doesn't do it specifically. It doesn't say you will meet so many times per year with this group and this is exactly how you will fund or how the CIC will work or any of that. It just says we utilize the CIC to comply with goal 1. So they're very high-level directions. I'm going to give you a couple more examples about how they influence things. The comprehensive plan, when we adopt a plan or do most things, we review it against the comprehensive plan. So you could think about our stormwater master plan that's under review right now. That has an analysis in the staff report for the City Commission to review that identifies all the applicable goals and policies within our comprehensive plan. You could think of a parks master plan being the same way. So what does our community vision, our comprehensive plan say that we should be doing? And when we adopt all of these plans that later become adopted as a part of the comprehensive plan, are we implementing that vision? So we start with this general vision, and then we move forward to refine it in a series of plans. And in each of those refinements, we want to make sure that we're carrying out this larger community vision again. Here's some examples. I know this is a little bit amorphous, but here is some comprehensive plan policies. Again, they're rather vague or open to implementation through a variety of different ways. So here's just 3 ones, and I'm going to give you 2 examples of how we implement all 3 of these. So there is a goal on neighborhood livability and providing a sense of place and identity for residents and visitors. It goes on to add a little bit more detail, which is rather broad. Then there's one on making sure we have a supply of affordable housing, and also making sure another policy that looks at affordable housing to making sure that we have enough types of units, some of which can be affordable. One of the things that we did to implement that was in our zoning code. So one of the more specific implementation techniques from this comprehensive plan is our actual zoning code, which says you can do this with your property or you can do that with your property. Recently, we amended our city code to further address some requirement for lot size reduction. So maybe in a subdivision, a lot gets to be a little bit smaller, so you get a mix of housing. That idea of allowing a smaller lot to get that mix of housing implements some of these goals and policies of our comprehensive plan. Another example of that is duplexes on corners. So this is a newer one that we recently implemented, where in a subdivision, if you have a corner lot, you could have a duplex on that. Now, there's design standards and things like that to ensure that we are carrying out these policies, like providing the sense of place and identity to, so that it fits in with the rest of the neighborhood. But that is just one avenue to where a comprehensive plan balances all of these often competing goals and policy and priorities as well. It'll look at things like urbanization and transportation. So the bigger we get, the more traffic we're going to have. What do we prioritize over something else? Historic preservation, efficient use of utilities and infrastructure would normally mean you would want to build denser, but there's problems with that too. So our comprehensive plan lets us take a global approach to balance all of these approaches to the future and to change. So when we move along through time, we're prepared for the future and we have a plan as to what we prioritize. Here's our existing comprehensive plan. These are just some of the titles of some chapters, but I left it at my desk, but it's kind of big, and it's set up to mimic our statewide land use goals. It's kind of a bear to read if you haven't, if you're not familiar with it. It's not real approachable, and that's one of the problems that we're looking to fix. So we're looking to update our comprehensive plan, and one of the goal of the comprehensive plan update is to make sure that we talk to as many community members as possible to understand what the community would like for the future. I have no goal in mind of what the new one will say. My goal is that we talk to people and that we understand what is your priority or your priority. And not the way that we talk to people normally, but maybe talking to people in a different way, so that we are actively going out to reach people where they're at and going into the schools or going into different places rather than just putting a survey online or sending out a mailer. We'll do that too, but we want to talk to as many people, and that takes an army to do that. We have 4 people in the planning department, and one's going on maternity leave, so we don't have a lot of staff. So that's where we're going to rely on our network of people and you guys, specifically the CIC in a lot of cases, but also all of our other groups as well, to be champions for us. And we'll talk about it later when we actually have a consultant on board. This is just an intro speech, but we will give you a toolkit of ways to engage with your neighbors and family members to ask what they want for the future, and then you will give us back that information. So I don't personally need to talk to every one of our citizens or all the planners, because sometimes people might not want to tell me something that they would be willing to tell a family member. And we want to make sure that we use this opportunity to have all of our community groups engaged, and neighborhood associations as well. And so we will be coming up with, out of this project, a public involvement plan. That plan's going to go before it's finalized. So at this point, we have no consultant on board yet. I'm just giving you the pre-speech about what a comprehensive plan is before we update it. But we anticipate doing a fair amount of community engagement. We'll spend our time through the end of the summer doing that and collecting data and information about what the community would like. And then we're going to put it together in a community vision. And the community vision is going to be a short document which stitches together all of the information that we've heard. Are there things that are really important for the community members, or things that community members would like to change in the future? Then we're going to go through and we're going to update the comprehensive plan. But rather than having that many chapters, We're going to have our community vision first because that's the driver. And then we're going to have 4 chapters. So we will have chapters, and they won't be called quality of air, water, and land resources, or Willamette River Greenway. They will be called something like neighborhoods or historic and cultural resources, something like that. So we're going to try and frame the comprehensive plan from a perspective of a neighbor who would want to use it when someone's doing development, or a developer who would want to actually use it when they're doing development. The point is that it's supposed to be written by the community and used by the community. And if it's that long, then it's really hard. So we want to make sure that we can use this moving forward. So then we'll have a comprehensive plan, and then we'll go through our traditional legislative process, which just means we'll come back before you, we'll go before the Planning Commission, and if they think that it's worthy, we'll go before the City Commission as well. Here's our general timeline for updating the comprehensive plan. Soon. The funding is a little bit complicated, but we hope to get a consultant on board in February-ish and then start in March for the first part of it. But there will be more to come, so don't worry yet. You will be involved in what the engagement strategy is, and then you'll certainly hopefully be involved in implementation of the engagement strategy as well. I think that's it. Oh, I did have a quote. This is from our comprehensive plan that we have now. It's from 2004, by the way, so it's been a bit of time, and things like the Legacy Project and our city boundary and concept plans have happened since then. But also, I think our population is different. We have new people who've moved in since 2004, so we want to hear from them too. The quote from the comp plan says, "The city firmly believes that the plan is necessary to protect and maintain the quality of life and social and economic vitality of the community. The City Commission understands that good planning is necessary to ensure that land resources are thoughtfully and efficiently used, that public services are cost-effective and adequate, that natural and historic resources that help define the city's character are protected and preserved, and that citizens will have continuing influence on the ongoing decisions about the growth and development of their community." So this is supposed to be a plan by the community, for the community. We had many requests from the community to update this plan, why we're doing it. Also, it's a good idea to do. But I'm here to answer any questions that you have. Carla?
So first off, we were talking before about the consultant. Is there any influence beyond the City Commission concerning the consultant that's hired to give advice? Because the last one I met, I didn't necessarily like the code changes and all that. I didn't necessarily agree with. So how's that process going to go, number one, in hiring someone? Number two, I'd be interested to know in the city goals in the future on where they want to do environmentally concerning wetlands, concerning trees, concerning preservation of why people are coming here. Because like Ben's been building and coexisting with their natural beauty, and that's why a lot of people are moving there. And then the third thing is low-income housing. I see a lot of houses being built. A lot of them are pretty expensive still, and there's not really affordable housing. And actually, Mayor Holliday mentioned once, which I agree with, we don't want to necessarily take on all the brunt of low-income housing, that it should be spread equally through all the cities. So that's kind of my input there. So I'm just kind of curious in the future, you may not be able to answer it now about the consultant, plans in the future for pro-environment and pro-trees, and then in the future about how much low-income housing do we plan to take on, and what that will look like, because some of the stuff that's being built is not affordable.
Yeah, all really good questions. Okay, first one was about consultant. So I sigh before I answer because we did a good job because we received 2 grants to fund this project. So we received about $50,000 from one source and tentatively $150,000 from another source. And then the city put in $50,000 as well. And so it was really great that the city commission showed dedication by dedicating financial resources to this project, because certainly money is hard to come by, and we want to make sure that we're good stewards of the city's public dollar. So the good thing is that we got a lot of money for this project. The bad thing is, with that money, there comes a lot of complexities in process. So with the first one, where the city's about to issue an RFP for a consultant to do a housing needs analysis, an economic study, and then to do the public engagement plan and those tools as well. We're in charge of that RFP process, so we'll use our typical process. We have requirements for expectations of what we would need for consultants in order to apply, but we ultimately would make that decision as staff. Then the second one is the $150,000 contract, and that's through ODOT. And so we do not choose that consultant. They have their own procurement process, and that will happen likely in April or so. So it'll happen a little bit later to fund sort of the second part of the project as well. You asked a question about environmental resources and protection. You heard Pete say that we have some codes that apply right now within overlay districts, so there are layers of protection, but they weren't always there, right? I mean, this comprehensive plan certainly has a lot of goals and policies for both affordable housing, so housing choice and affordability, and then also for various types of environmental protection, but that wasn't always the case. And so we do have a lot of development that's right next to a wetland or something like that. And so it's interesting to play catch up now that we regulate things that we didn't used to regulate. But the answer to your question is whatever the public says, right? We have some minimum requirements that we have to meet through those federal, state, metro requirements, but we get to certainly put our own lens as to how far or aggressive we want to push things. Where do we find that balance between okay development and environmental protection? And so we'll get to find our own place. I don't have an answer for you because I don't have any answer to anything that the community is going to say, and I shouldn't. The other one was on affordable housing. I think so this will provide a space for the city commission if someone wanted to put in the comprehensive plan a goal or policy to continue to investigate ways to support affordable housing, or more specific than that, they can. The comprehensive plan is supposed to be high level, so it wouldn't say like build this something here, but it may say, for city-owned property, consider an affordable housing project or not. I think also the challenge with affordable housing, from our perspective, is that we are not an agency that builds housing. Like, I review applications for housing, but we're not like a housing authority. But that's certainly up to the commission if that's the direction they want to send us, or the community through this as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Laura, did you say that the same consultant is going to be doing affordable housing at the same time as the comprehensive plan?
No, I'm sorry if that came out like that. I'm dual funding this. I'm hoping for one consultant on both parts. It's actually tri-funded. There's 3 funding sources, and we will make it as seamless to the public as possible. I don't know who the consultants are yet because we haven't gone through procurement.
So they'll be doing multiple projects at the same time?
You don't worry about it. I will worry about it for you.
I'm with Carla. Not happy with that last thing. And if we're anywhere touching that last thing, I'm not going to go there. So that's what I'm trying to.
Yeah.
This is new to me. I hadn't heard this before. So that's why I was concerned.
Honestly, we have a lot of, so the way that it gets written is going to be very different than our past projects. We're going to have an advisory committee that's in charge of the whole thing, so a public advisory committee. We will also have different advisory committees writing each section of the comprehensive plan, so those 4 chapters I was talking about. So there will be lots and lots of process, which is why the comp plan update and the community vision take so long to do. So we will not be writing it and just go straight to legislative review. The whole thing is meant to be written by and for the community. You can hold me to it.
One question.
Yes.
Why does the community vision start in August and end in November? Or is that just a graph that sort of shows its stage at when it's going to be drawn from?
Yeah, so
I mean, wouldn't that be all-inclusive?
That was writing the vision, I think.
Yeah, writing the
wasn't it?
vision, is that the August through November?
So what we want to do is we want to spend through summer collecting data or opinions of the public on what the city ought to be like in 20 years. And then we'll take all of that data and we have an advisory team that will draft the community vision from that. And they have 4 months or so to draft that community vision from everything that was been collected. And we really want the community vision to be the driver. So all of these comp plan updates will continually be looked back and analyzed against the community vision. The goal in around that time, so next winter, would be for the city commission to review the community vision and adopt it by resolution, even before the comprehensive plan update occurs. Because again, we want to invest in the community vision and continually make sure that we are measuring up against it. But then when the comprehensive plan update happens, there's lots of ways to participate in actually how those goals and policies are and what the content are as well. And that's open to the public. It's not an advisory team that's running that.
Well, my only reason to make any comment at all was it just seems to be captured within the summer months when people are on vacation and gone. And it doesn't seem like that amount of time is sufficient to weigh such a comprehensive plan and allow people to digest what is being put forth and having time to think about it and then offer up an idea that might be contrary. It just seems like I would see, and I know it's just a silly graph, but it's just sort of like, it seems like we're encapsulating just like, okay, we got a little input here for 4 months and we've got the whole year and a half of like other people staffed and other capable, I'm sure, but it just seems like if you really, as you keep expressing an outreach for community kind of feedback, it just seems like we would broaden the green panel so that we'd be inclusive right at the start and through the whole.
Yeah, I would combine
Sequence.
the blue and the green. So the input on what the vision is starts in March.
Yeah.
So-
All we can see is a graph and sort of like I feel like I'm trapped between August and November for like, whoa, I got to make some kind of idea or comment based on what's being said. And I think it seems to be, would be helpful for everybody and all concerned if like we were sort of like a part of the whole thing. I mean, getting feedback, and maybe we will, but based on what I'm seeing here, I feel like I'm restricted. I don't know, a silly graph, but my fear is that we will have limited feedback from the community. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think the goal is to come back to you guys. We'll probably see you in March or in April with the community involvement plan. And then you guys will get a chance to comment on that before we go live with that. And then once we do that, you will help with the community involvement. And that will be way before the green. The green's just sort of narrowing down all
target.
that. But
Okay,
understood.
Thanks.
Hey, Laura, if I may.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see your thing, so I didn't know you wanted to come. Bob, and then we'll go to Rachel.
Said Bob, right?
Beaver. Well, I kind of concur with what Dennis just said as far as concerns. The city was very, very good about getting community involvement and is still doing so with the Willamette Falls project. And I can see that this probably should be the same kind of a process, trying to get as much community involvement and opinions as possible. Let's see here. I'm assuming that the timeline will probably go past that last September thing. I mean, this is a huge project.
For the legislative review. Yeah, that's the most guess that I...
None of this is cast in stone.
No, there's points that funding disappears and but no, I think all consultants will probably be off board by July of 2021, and legislative review will take as long as legislative review takes, and we understand that.
And then the last thing I have is a request or a question about the RFP. Is that chosen strictly by the cheapest bidder?
No. We,
Could you expound on that?
You asked a yes or no question, though.
I'm not gonna let you off that.
Man, yeah, no, you could put in qualifications for the RFP, and there are ways that you can do it. And so it's more of who best serves the project and who's the best benefit for the project, particularly because we have different RFPs and funding sources. It's not the cheapest because obviously you would want some cohesion through the course of the project.
I feel better about that then.
Yeah.
Looking forward to this.
We all are. Should be fun.
Rachel?
Thanks. So Laura, just, I think some feedback on your chart. If I listen to everything, I think what folks are missing is that text that says community engagement through project completion. So I would say when you bring this chart back, it sounds like that community education and engagement is really just the engagement part for the community visioning. But technically, you plan on community engagement to start from March and go all the way through the end of the project.
That's correct.
So
Maybe we need a pink.
yeah, so I think if you were to really,
The whole way through.
yeah,
It's a
so if you
color,
put,
but it doesn't show up very well. It's gray.
yeah, so if you were really
Sorry.
talking about community engagement, that bar, you would have a bar that starts at the beginning and goes through the project completion. I just don't think it's
We missed
reflected
the
on
color.
that chart.
Yeah.
I didn't see the text until after, 'cause I think
didn't
we're all
see that
looking at
either.
the colored bars. And so so that's an improvement for next time.
Thank you
Need
for
bells and
clarifying.
whistles and all that for
Yeah.
that part.
Yeah, because I totally missed it too. I'm like, oh, look at all the colorful bars, and you said it. It's just not in the chart, and so we missed it. I missed it too.
Let me go this way. Yes, no, the point is that we need your help, and we need your help through the duration. So you better get your sleep now because we have about a year and a half or 2 years worth of hard work before us.
I do have to say, I met with Laura to talk about this a little bit. We were having a lot of fun coming up with some really fun ideas to engage the public. So outside the box, definitely.
Yeah, and if you have
So
any,
it is
come
kind
see
of
us too.
exciting. So if you have exciting ideas, yeah. We get caught up in the nitty gritties, but I think it will be a good thing.
If you're to never participate in anything the city does, this is the one thing you should participate in. This drives so many other plans and goals and policies and budgets. This should be the thing. This is the most important thing that you can do.
Hear that, everybody watching?
Pressure's on.
Pressure's on. Any other questions for Laura? Thank you. We'll see you again soon. All right, public comments. So I have 4 comment forms. If anyone else wants to make a public comment, they're welcome to fill out a form in the back and hand that in right now. We'll first up have Marjorie Hughes and Jerry Miller. Just to remind you that you have up to 3 minutes, and please keep it relevant to the citizen involvement, not all the other commissions and committees out in the world.
Okay, thank you. I'm Margie Hughes. I live in Oregon City. I actually live in the Hillendale Neighborhood Association, but I am the secretary for Two Rivers Neighborhood Association, and I'm here tonight to talk about Two Rivers Neighborhood Association. I've been the secretary for that organization since we adopted our bylaws in 2013, and we have had some struggling time and spent a lot of time looking forward to the building of the apartments and the building of the apartment condos. So now with approximately 200 or 300 new residents coming into the apartments, we do have some residents. Prior to that, we had about 20 actual residents in Two Rivers Neighborhood Association, a lot of businesses, but CIC does not allow for a business to represent the neighborhood association on the CIC. So we are reaching out to some new property owners and to some of the apartment residents, and hoping that by the time we have our April meeting, we will be able to elect and appoint a CIC member. In the meantime, we've just been, someone's been coming and to tell you that we're still alive and well. So the neighborhood association at our last meeting voted to support and encourage the City Commission and the Urban Renewal Commission to look at things that they could do around the cove and the waterways and the wetlands around the cove prior to another developer coming in to develop the living facilities and offices, et cetera, on that property. So we would like the city, and I have some copies, but I apologize, I don't have enough copies for everything. But there is a company that banks, I guess, property for mitigation of other properties, and we would like. It was brought to the city's attention in 2017 and 18 that there is an opportunity there for the Urban Renewal Commission to participate in using some of the banked money that a brownfield in Portland along the Willamette River had to do mitigation and cannot do it on their land, so they banked money, and that money's used for other sites that actually do wetlands preservation and so on. So that's one of the things that that we're hoping that we can convince the commission and both commissions to look at doing something while we're in limbo with nothing else happening on that property until we get another developer.
So Margie, if you would give, if you have a proposal, like if the Two Rivers is going to go to the Urban Renewal Commission or the City Commission with a proposal and you would like the CIC support, then that is something that you could put to in writing and come to the CIC and ask, and then we could vote on it.
Okay,
and,
okay.
From a formal
I
presentation.
have some information here. There's not enough copies.
If you give it to Christina, she could just scan it and send it out.
Perfect, because it does have the letter that we received from, it's called Restore Cap, which is the company that banks the money, and what their process would be. And so we just think that Two Rivers, I mean, we've been watching, in fact, that's one of the reasons why a lot of us came together to actually form Two Rivers, because of the opportunities that are going to happen in downtown Oregon City. And we're looking forward to having someone from the tribe, Grand Ronde tribe, come to our April meeting to talk about how we can help them. So,
Yeah, okay, thank you. Jerry?
Hello, I'm here representing Rivers of Life Center. You probably know Jerry Herman, our president and foreman. And on Saturday, April 18th, between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m., we will be having a Restore Clackamas Park time. At that time, we will be planting summer blooms, bulbs, pruning and shaping the shrubs in Clackamas Park and over by the River Resource Museum. We will be putting mulch on the plantings and cleaning up more trash, which we have done in the past. And we maintain the road down there and so forth. And we would just like for people to come and help us help the community. We will have the ROTC youth there with us, and it'll be a pizza luncheon. Thank you.
Great. If you could give that to Christina, then she can make sure and forward that to us too.
That'd be great.
What was the time again?
9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Thank you.
And the date again is April 18th.
Yeah, April 18th.
Thank you. All right, and then next we have Patty Webb and Paul Edgar.
I'm Patty Webb, and I live in Kanema. And I wanted to talk tonight specifically on the wetland issues. The CNA reps and steering committees are supposed to represent those people that live in Kenema, not just their own personal wishes. The only opinions I've heard are those of people hoping to benefit financially by the sale and development of Kenema. Decisions on properties should be made within the safety and well-being of all Kenema residents, not just those that stand to make money by the decisions made. Some of the people speaking to you about amending the wetland maps stand to make a pretty big profit off these properties and really should recuse themselves as a financial interest rather than taking it upon themselves to speak as if they represent all the people in Kenema, because they do not. Everybody else is downhill from these lots and deserves to be considered also. No neighborhood consensus was taken, no notice of any vote or survey. The CNA steering committee is making decisions that affect them personally and financially, and that's a big conflict of interest. Just as Mrs. Bleha and Mrs. Basinger stood before the city commission and stated everybody in Kenema just loves Mr. Adelman's fence at 3rd and Ganong, it was not true. They spoke for nobody but themselves. Part of your job as CIC reps is to honestly represent the people of your neighborhood, not just your own interests. Kenema needs reps that honestly represent the safety and well-being of those that live there, not people that are only looking to increase profit on their own personal property. Thank you.
Paul?
Thank you. Paul Edgar. I'm from Kenema. I'm passing around here a excerpt taken directly from the nomination document that was sent to the Department of Interior, and it talks about water use in Kenema. And what's important about it is that this is a historic document that goes back, and it starts talking about water percolating out of the bluff all over. And I have a pond right across the street from my house, and I have a stream that comes down between my house and my garage that comes out of an aquifer spring right above me. And none of these are really been surveyed or identified or documented in a way that they're protected. Not one of them, hardly anything. And so here we have, as an example, what happens is when we don't document this stuff, a cottage home development came in and they found, yeah, there was a wetland. So they went out and did a partial survey of it, got it adjudicated by the DSL. But because they already had a building permit, they were allowed to build on land. When they dug it out, there was living animals on it, moving around. This was wetland all around through this whole area. And what this talks about is that there was this historic Kenema Waterworks that was up on the hill that was a water supply prior to the 1900. And so this stream came down and settled into a bowl right at 5th and Miller. And then there was a stream that went straight down, and some people say that it's a little trickle. Come on down and take a look at it, because historically this whole area flooded less than 10 years ago. And it flooded to such a depth that it flowed over Miller Street and down through many yards. People don't really understand that as fact, but we have eyewitnesses, people that live there. Mo Barber was born and raised in a house at 4th and Miller. She knows it. The stream was the bed from this wetland was so deep that there was a bridge built across it. And one of the family people there said he didn't like the danger of having the stream through there, so he decided to put a pipe in to bury the whole, a wetland, bury it down, and he buried it without any permits, going through multiple city streets where there's a requirement by city code that you have to have a right-of-way permit to do this type of construction activity.
Well, are you taking the, are you, we
I
don't
want to
have.
take, yeah, but I want you people to realize that we have to have our area certified. We have to have this inventory done. It's never been done. Not adequately, ever. And this document right here is just word for word taken out of our nomination document. Right, word for word, not changed. And it shows that historically there was a wetland there, and how somebody would overlook it, who knows? But they did. And the waterworks, there it is. It's not inventoried.
I would encourage you to make sure and bring this and make sure that you get into the hearings and ask for these things.
Yeah.
Because, thank you for bringing it to our attention. We just don't have any jurisdiction.
Well, I know, but you guys are influential in being able to make recommendations to do things right.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Patty.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on. We have our elections. Oh, there are other public comments that.
5 minutes of your time at some point.
Oh, no. If you wanted to make a comment, we need you to do it now. And we have a form you fill out. You can have 3 minutes that.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that was me. I'll get you a card.
No, you're at the perfect exact time. This is public comment time.
Okay, so I'm Diane Wagner. I live up in, I'm in the McLaughlin neighborhood. I've lived up by the hospital for about 40 years, and I'm working for the census this year, recruiting. I've had lots and lots of events at the Oregon City Library. They've been wonderful partnering with us and helping us, but we still need hundreds and not hundreds of thousands of employees. It's a great job. It should be easy to sell, but the unemployment rate, what it is, and a lot of youth don't want jobs anymore, and a lot of reasons. We still need hundreds of thousands of people. We had one event Sunday that actually had televised advertisement, and it was awesome. People were pouring in the library, and it was to help people sign up. So anyway, we got quite a few people that day, and I talked to somebody in this room, and I was stuck. Just recently, I got assigned Kenema, the whole tract, because they have like nobody that's signed up there. And I think they need like 10 more people or something. I was just trying to find a way in, but I thought since you were all gonna be here tonight, I put one of these little notebooks together for each of you that just has some recruitment stuff, how to sign up, one in Spanish, mostly English. And if anybody had ideas for your area or anything, we're just kind of getting desperate for the recruiting because we only have less than a month left. They wanna be calling and hiring thousands of people next week. This week they're hiring hundreds. And Oregon City's actually doing great as far as we're beating Multnomah County like crazy, so.
Yay.
But we need a lot more people. Okay. And the only criteria is to be 18 years old and have a social security number and an email address. That's it. It's part-time, it's temporary, it's you set your own hours, it's all good. And they put people in their own neighborhoods. And so that's another reason why people in your neighborhoods might want people to sign up that are in your neighborhoods, because at some point they're going to be coming to your door. It's not a door-to-door job. It's a job where they'll go to the people that don't return their census information. But still, it's kind of nice to have somebody that's from your neighborhood or that you know, knocking on doors, et cetera. So anyway, I just thought if anybody had any great ideas, I'm on next door in McLaughlin, and
do you have a card in there?
I have a bunch of cards, but I'll write my number on them.
Okay.
And
when is this?
When is
The census taking?
The census they're mailing the cards out to everyone in the United States this month or next month. And then it will take a while for people, nobody's going door to door to take the census information this year. What they're doing is they're telling people that they need to do it online. That's the big one they want. And we all know that that's not going to happen in a lot of households for various reasons. So then they can make a phone call and give the information, or they can request a written ballot. That's going to take a little while to tally, and then when we get all the names of people that returned nothing, then these enumerators, they'll be trained first, and then they'll go out at specific addresses in their neighborhoods.
and just say, hey, you know, I'm with the census, they'll be badged, they'll be trained, and just say that they're there to ask a few questions because the forms weren't returned, so. Could be a month, could be 2 months, it'll be over by the end of the summer. They can make their own hours, so if you have students, kids, as long as they're 18, they make their own hours, they will be approved with the supervisor, but they have to work 20 hours a week minimum, and they can work all the way up to 40 hours, which for some 18-year-old kids, a lot of money at $18 an hour, so. Yeah, so anyway, I just want to get the word out there. Maybe you guys help me get the word out there, and if anybody has any brilliant ideas, I'm always willing to set up over the library and help people sign up. All applications are online, so.
Okay.
That's about it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And can I have your card? Because I'll pass that information on.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm going to write my name on a couple of them. They're not personal cards, they're census cards. So.
Okay.
Should I pass these out?
Great.
Just leave them here for now.
Well, I can take them.
Okay. And I'll give you some cards. Great. Thank you.
Okay. Now we are on to the agenda again. Up. I think we're at elections. Make sure nothing got changed. Yep, okay. Elections. So this should have happened last month, but I think because there weren't very many people here and some people hadn't been officially recognized, approved, we put it off. Take a couple, pass them on. So I think what we'll do, we have the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary. I have served, I don't even remember how many years. I have timed out of every possible extension that there was. And so someone else is going to have to step in as chair. Basically, as chair, you're responsible for running the meetings, helping set the agenda. Well, we actually are in the process of proving that you completely set the agenda, and that's what Christina and I pretty much do. And then I think there's, once a year, you go before the city commission and do an update to let everybody know what's going on. You can serve on any of the committees that come up. I currently sit on the Stakeholder Development Committee. I would like to continue to do that. That wasn't something as a chair, so unless someone else wants to take that on at 7:30 in the morning on a Thursday morning, I'd be glad to continue to do that just as the CIC representative. The vice chair conducts the meeting when the chair's not here, and the secretary takes attendance and then tallies if there's any voting that we do. So, pretty easy.
Will you still be on the CIC or?
Absolutely. I'm not going anywhere. It's really sad to me in the past, as soon as the chairs are no longer a chair, they disappear.
Yeah.
And I think that's happened for most of the CIC chairs since I've been involved since 2002. So, no, I'm not going anywhere. I have some ideas I want to run past as a member. So, with that, let's open the elections for chair. Is there any nominations?
I nominate
Dennis?
Bob.
Do you have a second?
A second.
Okay. Any other nominations for chair? All right. Bob, will you accept that nomination?
Yes.
Dennis, will you take the roll?
Can we say, all in favor, say aye?
Yeah, we can do that,
Aye.
I think. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Congratulations, Bob.
Thank you, Donald.
All right, vice chair.
I'd just like to add something here.
Uh-oh. Okay.
I'd like to thank Amy Wilhite for her term as the CIC chair and her dedication to this group for, I think, about 5 years now, through possibly the CIC's most turbulent time it's seen. You know, she's brought it through some tough times with a strong sense of honor and dedication through some somewhat controversial issues and maybe even some political shenanigans. But I think she should be congratulated for her loyal service. And thank you, Amy, for very much.
I do love the CIC. All right, vice chair? Nominations for vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Dennis Anderson.
I have to decline.
Okay.
Amy, is that something you can do?
I cannot be an officer.
You can't.
No. At least for 2 years, I guess. Okay, Bob needs a vice chair. Anybody, you can nominate yourself too.
I would prefer that we have officers from different neighborhoods.
I'd nominate John.
Is John interested?
I'll second that.
John, would you accept the
I guess
nomination?
so.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Oh, you call it.
All in favor of John being vice chair?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Congratulations, John. And now, not least, by any means, and thanks to Steve for
Such a great job.
being the vice chair and cover for me. This has been the roughest year I've had as chair as far as missing meetings. I don't think any of the other vice chairs have ever had to conduct the number like Steve did. Sorry, Steve.
Whatever.
It was life. It's just life. All right. And Dennis, any nominations for secretary? You just have to be here and take the role, like, and smile like Dennis does.
Karen?
Dennis?
Dennis, yeah.
Karen, would you?
Carla, that's
Carla? Carla?
The only thing I'm having is I'm technically trying to see if someone else new, other than me being chair, will come in for me and hoping to increase our numbers. Otherwise, I would. But I'm hoping at some point I cycle through and get someone new other than me doing.
Welcome back, Carla.
Good luck. I'm trying.
Wish it well.
Otherwise, I would.
I nominate Dennis.
By default, it's
How long have you been in, Dennis?
just one.
Oh.
One pass.
Oh,
That sounds good.
and second, John? Would you
Yes,
accept
of
that?
course.
Okay. So,
Wait, cool.
call your roll for yourself.
I know you do that. Okay, I'm not going to do that.
Okay, any objections? I'll call it. Any abstaining? All in favor?
Aye.
You've done a great job, Dennis. Thank you.
It's a hard job.
All right, Bob, next time you're up.
Right.
Liaison updates. Christina.
All right. Attached in your packet is a sign variance presentation from the January meeting, as well as a couple outstanding neighborhoods that have not turned in their applications to Katie, so get on it, please. And then the last bit of my liaison report just kind of has basic information about how to do postcards, and then again, the links to how to get to the development applications. So you can always kind of go, I think for a little bit, I'll just keep it as a default. So if someone asks you how to get development applications, remember it's in Christina's liaison report every month, and you can go find it. Little update for tonight. I'll provide links in a separate email for the letter from Margie Hughes, as well as Jerry's poster for the event and census info. So all three will go out. I sent an email out today about postcard budgets. Some neighborhoods are kind of burning faster through their money. There are some inactive neighborhoods as well as some carry forward. So in past, the neighborhoods have asked other neighborhoods for money, and then they've kind of done an internal pass through to the budget. So I'm kind of recommending that agenda get added to the March meeting to kind of allow everyone to come to the March meeting, having talked to their neighborhood association, figure out the best way to move forward, knowing that some neighbor associations will not be able to make their postcard budget, and other neighborhoods are under, and some neighborhoods are inactive.
So I think that I have a couple things to give you too, Bob, for the March agenda. One of the concerns that we had is the city allocates the funds for the neighborhoods. The CIC has no jurisdiction over the neighborhoods. So we don't have the right to tell neighborhoods how to spend or where to spend. So how is the CIC going to?
I think it's more like a venue for a chance to the different neighborhoods to talk, not necessarily a decision being made by this. I mean, since we're all here on Monday nights every month, rather than trying to hold another meeting, like in the library where the neighborhoods talk to each other.
Okay.
It just made sense.
So-
But if there's another way that neighborhoods want to coordinate to give direction on the postcard budget, that works as well.
So because like Gaffney Lane, we're gonna use all of our money, so I'll go back to my neighborhood and say, we're almost out, we're gonna use up all of our money, do you want me to ask for more, right? Okay. So if we could all go to our neighborhoods and then for those inactive, I guess if a neighborhood's gonna go over, then we would just take it, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand.
Good idea.
I think they understand how many neighborhoods have, how many postcards left? Are you planning on doing 1, 2 postcards till June 30th? How will it all run out?
Did you ask that in your email?
Well, I said to come to the March meeting with, if you think you are going to be.
Oh, okay.
What your
Okay.
status do you think will be by June 30th?
Okay, so everybody here, make sure.
Yeah, I glanced at it. I wasn't sure who was running over or under.
If you're in red, you probably aren't going to make it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was just
You can
based
kind
on
of look how
past.
often you're gonna go, like we do every other month, so it's pretty much, we know every other month.
And some neighborhoods only do it every once in a while. So every neighborhood is very different on how they spend their postcard money. And so it's not an easy, each neighborhood gets X money. So,
Okay.
it's not something the CSC can choose, but it's a nice venue for everyone to talk it through. I think there's enough money for everybody, but this is a decision that I can't, as staff, allocate.
Yeah, what happens if we go over?
Well, that's the only budget amount for this year.
So whoever's last in line and submits their postcards, Kelsey would say, sorry, there's no more money, you're not approved?
Well, right now, if you are out of money in your neighborhood association budget, what Kelsey would say is you don't have any money in your budget, can you find money from another neighborhood or pay the difference with your own money right
Well,
now?
in the past, it just came out of the,
Other neighborhoods.
yeah, I mean, it wasn't like, I have no way to ask Hillendale, who is maybe not using their, or South End, who is completely, there is no one to ask. So if Gaffney Lane says, we're gonna need more money, how am I gonna get that money from South End?
Well, hopefully, it can be covered with the inactive neighborhoods, but I'm not sure if it can be covered with the inactive neighborhoods. That's where I think of
But
everyone.
who gets to make the call?
Well, I think we don't know until we know how many postcards people think they're gonna have. I mean, that's an information we don't know yet.
Okay.
Well, in the past, it seems, most people were willing to, shift money from one
Yeah,
neighborhood to the
that's not
other.
a problem.
But we never really thought of ourselves as having that kind of authority to, you know what I mean?
Well, I think in the past, the neighborhood that needs the extra money has just presented it to the CIC as a whole and then asked, will anybody volunteer to make up the difference for us? And then from that point, everybody kind of nodded their head, and then the city liaison took care of the financial end of it.
Right.
We didn't have inactive neighborhoods, so we didn't have the inactive neighborhoods like we do now.
Yeah, we did.
No, like, we had neighborhoods that weren't sending out postcards, and they said, yeah, you can have our money.
Yeah, I had to escort twice, and both times, we had neighborhoods that had not used all their money, that had plenty of money, and they said, yeah, you can take $50 or whatever I was over from our leftover 180. Or there's the slush fund for the whole CIC, one
There's some carry
column
forward, yeah.
for that.
So if we just
So-
come prepared with who's gonna need money, then.
Yeah, that's the big
We'll work
main
it out.
thing right there.
Okay.
is Let us know you need money, and I'm sure it'll happen.
You need money till June, is that what I heard?
Through the end of June.
To the end of June.
So most likely that's for July meetings. They usually bill the July, because you print them and send them in June. Depending on when your meeting is, it's kind of catchy, right?
So clear as mud, but.
Clear as mud, but I think we all will come with knowing if we need money or if we're gonna have extra money.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a matter of taking care of each other.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I think there is enough in this budget with the inactive neighborhood associations and the carry forward, but we just need to understand how many postcards people still need. Some neighborhoods are very big, so their postcard budget is a lot for one notice and some are small. So like Kenema sends very, much smaller postcard packet than like Hillendale, for example. So if you look at the
And if
chart,
we
you can
look at
see-
this and it's going to continue to be a problem, that's something we're going to need to ask for more money before the next biennium.
Well, I believe the rates went up in January anyway.
Oh, really?
I don't know. Miss Post Office Lady, say it, Carla.
So just my concern is with everything that Laura presented on the future, it'd be more important than ever that we get those postcards out. So that if we're communicating to our citizens and residents, so.
Yeah.
And then, it sounds like we go to the city commission if we need more money, right? So, cool.
Right.
Rachel smiles at us.
and that's all I have.
Okay. Citizen Involvement Committee and creation of bylaws, Bob.
Oh, yeah. Almost forgot about
How did you forget about that?
I'm gonna come up front, so
Oh, whoa.
I can answer questions.
Bob's done a great job of spearheading this.
I have enough copies, minus one. So could you share? Thank you so much. I thought you probably would. Just pass these around. They've already. I'll wait until everybody gets their copy so we can go through this in detail. A small group of us have got together a couple of times to go over the City Code, Chapter 2.30, Citizens Involvement Committee, and the changes that we would desire to have the City Commission make. We've already discussed a lot of these things, but what I've done here is the items that are crossed out in red are existing wordage, and then the bold-faced items are ones that we desire to add to the city code. So as we go through it, I hope that helps you understand. The first item, 2.30.010, created in the next to last line, it says we are to perform other duties as identified. It used to say this chapter, but it never said anything. So we've eliminated the word this chapter and replaced it with the CIC bylaws, which we'll be developing as time goes on. And if you have any questions, please bring them up as I'm speaking so we can address them right away. Item 2.30.020, duties. Item C, provide information to the City Commission and crossed out and the public. And we added the Planning Commission, the Historic Review Board, and we added those specifically because they quasi-judicial performance of their duties, and other committees as appropriate, because we may have things come to the CIC from other committees like TAC or somebody, PRAC, whatever, that they may want to discuss with us and they may want us to give them some input. So other committees as appropriate, and then also and the public. Item D, previously said only assist with requests from the City Commission. We decided to add review and assist. Without a review, you can't do much assisting. Item 2.30.030, membership. This is in regard to our change that we want to have a vote for each one of the 2 designated members of each neighborhood association. So that states the CIC will consist of, and it eliminates 1 primary member and 1 alternate member, and replaces that with 2 members from each city recognized association. Item B, each neighborhood shall provide, and we've replaced that with select. It goes on to say 2 members for nomination for appointment by the mayor. Again, my word processor sometimes makes mistakes, and in that particular case, I suppose mayor should be capitalized. I did it, but the word processor didn't. Take my word for it. Item B. Oh, let's see. And it goes on to say, failure of the mayor to appoint such selected members shall be supported by valid reasons. We've added that because the representatives are selected by their neighborhoods. The neighborhoods know the people that they've selected and want them to be their representative. And so that's why we added that the mayor should really, what this boils down is, select those persons that are selected by the neighborhoods. If he doesn't, maybe he has a good reason. If he does, he or she, well, let us know. Give us the courtesy of letting us know why you don't want to appoint that person to the CIC. Let's see, item C. Appointed for 2 years, terms of office shall commence on the first day, it said of the calendar year, but that may not work. So we replaced it with following appointment by the mayor. The reason for this is we rendered this in the Transportation Advisory Committee is that in this original one, the term of office may commence the first day of the calendar year. However, what if the mayor doesn't appoint that person? The mayor appoints everybody in January, a meeting in January. Well, if he didn't appoint the person that we elected as members, then we'd have to go through the whole thing. So this eliminates that possibility, is that their appointment shall commence on the first day following appointment by the mayor. Yes, Steve?
But no earlier than January 1st.
You want us to add that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I suppose.
I think that is a good clarifying thing.
Yeah. Okay. Item D, the members shall reside. We eliminated work in own property or own a business. This is a citizens organization. Members shall reside within the neighborhood association boundaries, blah, blah, blah. But inside the urban growth boundary designated to be, and the other was, we eliminated within, because it could be within the urban growth boundary, but not within the city limits. So this adjusts for that, adjacent to the neighborhood association which they represent. Item F. If you can't attend a meeting, it's the responsibility of the member to notify the CIC chairperson rather than the city liaison, since we're putting more responsibility on the chairperson. Item G, again, this I think was overlooked in the original code when they put it together. A CIC member may be removed by the city commission after hearing, and before it said only for misconduct or non-performance of duty. It didn't include if a member missed 3 consecutive meetings. So this simply says, for the above reasons, which include failure to attend 3 consecutive meetings, misconduct, or non-performance of duty. And then at that point, the neighborhood association shall select, as stated above, a new member for appointment by the mayor. 2.30.040 officers and staffing. Item A1, the officers shall be, and would never have been appointed, is changed to elected for 2 years. Item 2, at the very end of that part, we added the chairperson shall create the agenda for all general and special meetings of the CIC, which was one of the main changes that we wanted to have made. And we've had a tentative approval from the city commission on that issue. Item A4, secretary. The secretary, for a long time now, has not prepared the minutes and sentence records. So we put here the secretary calls the roll for attendance of all meetings and calls the roll for all votes. Actually, as the upcoming chairperson, I'd like to add, and any other duties as appointed by the chairperson.
Dennis does not second that.
Still willing to be.
Dennis and I know each other pretty well, so he'd take it pretty good.
You think?
Well, let's see, moving on here. Staffing of the CIC, city liaison, in bold, we added, and shall record the minutes and submit them to the CIC for approval. You've already started putting those together, haven't you, Christina? The minutes?
Katie Riggs has a person that is taking the minutes, and I know we are farther down the list, but she's working through the backlog.
Okay, great. I'm so glad to hear that. So it's previously was a job given to the secretary, but I think it's more appropriate for the city liaison. And then the last sentence, consistent with the city charter, the city manager has been crossed out, and we've added the city commission shall retain its discretion to suspend staffing when reasonable circumstances warrant. I think would be better for everybody involved if it was a group decision rather than an individual decision. Let's see, organizational procedures. Special meetings may be called in accordance with the Public Open Meetings Law, no longer by the city manager or the city manager designee, and as provided by the CIC bylaws. Now, previously, and in the bylaws that we're currently working on, we don't have those prepared yet tonight because that's a whole different process. There were provisions for members of the CIC to call special meetings under very unusual circumstances, but it happened once in the history, a very controversial period of time for the CIC, very controversial, but that it worked. And we do need to have provision for the new members to call a special meeting if it really becomes necessary. Let's see, quorums for meetings. Shall be approved by a simple majority of, and we crossed out voting members because we'll all be voting members at that time, majority of the members present. And then it eliminated the next sentence, all eliminated primary, and eliminate all alternate members, but all members who are present are allotted one vote each on all motions. And again, that was one of the big objectives that we were looking forward to. Well, boy, here's a biggie. We sure were happy this happened. 2.30.060 grievances is eliminated completely in its entirety forever, we hope. We'll just leave that section open for a bigger and better subject maybe in the future. Conflict of interest. No member of the CIC, and we included also the city liaison, commission liaison, or city staff, shall participate in blah, 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 if they have a conflict of interest. I think it should not only be the CIC members, but anybody that's sitting on this committee or in support of this committee, if they have a conflict of interest, they should just say so and keep themselves out of the conversation. Expenditures. Again, we don't have any authority to spend any money for the city, so we won't even try to ask.
So I shouldn't turn in my receipt for my trip that I'm gonna take.
Yeah, right.
To go visit another city, Bend, to see how they run there.
You sure? It might be a nice trip.
I do have a sister there and I am going, but so.
So these are the new version of Chapter 2.30, Citizens Involvement Committee, of the city code that we've put changes into, mostly reflecting what we've already discussed with the city commission, with the exception of a couple little things. And then we are still working on the bylaws, which is quite a document, goes in more detail how we run our meetings, how people are elected, so on and so forth. I would hope by the next meeting, we'll be able to present a version of the CIC bylaws. We're using the old bylaws as a template and then making changes so that they comply with the city code. And from what I understand, the city commission wishes for us to present both the new code and the bylaws at the same time. So the next, like I said, at the next meeting, we hope to have the bylaws draft prepared for all of you.
So our goal, if I remember right, Bob, is that at our next meeting, we'll have the clean draft of the code for us to vote on, and if we approve, we'll submit it, and we'll have Tony send it to the attorney before, because we need it approved by them before it goes to commission. And then we'll bring the first draft of the bylaws, right?
Does that make sense?
Does that, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll need an electronic version, because at the point when we actually get to the meeting where it's voted on, I'll need to make sure it's attached.
Yeah, we'll have that too. It'll be up in time for Bob to submit with the agenda next time for March's meeting.
Yeah.
The code that we're gonna vote.
Yeah.
So if anybody has any comments or changes or suggestions other than the one that Steve had, or comments?
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, thank you. Do you want Rita and John met also, so.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
Moving right
However, it
along.
does bring up an interesting, until the new code and bylaws are approved, I'm the voting member from Park Place.
Yeah.
And Bob will just be the chair of the CIC and non-voting.
Right.
Okay. So on that great thing we're gonna vote on next month?
Yeah.
Make it happen,
On that big thing next month.
whatever it is.
Next month, we have Chief Band coming, and
This census, if you wanted to sign up.
who was the other person that we just got? Oh, the new library director.
Just for my notes, who was at the meeting to write the second process notes?
John and Rita and Bob met, and then Bob and I met.
Okay.
I wasn't able to make the group meeting, but we are going to meet again before the next meeting. I'll be sending out, Bob said I'm the hardest one to get my calendar to sync, so I will be sending out a notice to the four of us with a few dates to meet up again. Okay. So with that, if there's nothing, we will move on to roundtable. Again, I encourage you to. Yeah, did I miss something? Yeah.
Fernwood.
What? Oh, those were the attachments with the staff lead.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
That she just sent from the last meeting.
Okay.
Amy, I have one question on the proposal. I'm just trying to go through it pretty quick here.
Sure.
Really, the main one is on the second page, 230040B2. The city liaison will be a non-voting member of the CIC. You struck, consistent with the city charter, the city manager shall retain his or her discretion to suspend staffing when reasonable circumstances warrant. I think the language consistent with the city charter, the city manager shall retain. So the way Oregon City's set up is a city manager form of government. So essentially, I and the judge work for the city commission. All the staff under that work for me. So, you're setting up a conflict here in that the city commission controls staffing through the budget process, but not specific assignments within the city.
We don't have the city commission does not have discretion to suspend staffing when reasonably circumstances warrant.
I think, okay.
That will have to remain the city manager.
So we need to figure out how we can say, because the whole problem arose last time when the city manager got in a funk and decided that they should say that we should cancel the staff liaison. And city commission didn't approve of that. And you stepped up to the plate when you became city manager, and you at the time you weren't city manager, you were director, but it.
Right. I mean, we're gonna have to come up with a different method because
there's got to be a check and balance. I think
that.
is the key.
Yeah. Other than through the budgeting process.
So I see what you're saying. We're by no means trying to pick on you as a city manager, but just there's got to be.
I think the meaning of that, Tony, was that the decision to provide staff or not would be to the city commission, not the appointment of the specific staff person.
It's not their discretion.
But this would give them the discretion.
They can.
Which would be
the way that I read the charter would be that it doesn't specifically say that the city manager is specifically responsible for that particular duty. I'd have to go through it to quote you, but it does allow wiggle room there.
I would
take my word for it now, and we can talk about it later.
This isn't something I can recommend that language to the commission, so I don't want to be any surprises moving forward.
If you could just provide us with a language you think would work, and then
that'd be great. Yeah,
then
that'd be very helpful if you do that.
Because I just don't think consistent with the city charter, the city manager shall. I think that we were missing something there, so maybe there's something we need to add there. I mean, if that line needs to remain that sentence, okay, but is there something else that can be added in there because it's always been the city, the city commission, we report to the city commission, let them know what's going on. The mayor appoints the members, so the city commission, you have the jurisdiction to say, here's staff to help you. But city commission kind of oversees us, so it's kind of confusing.
Well, you've added language that says that staffing will include a city liaison, just above that on B. So is that, you're trying to make it where you're ensure to staff support. Is that what you're trying to ensure, that a staff liaison, a city liaison is always present?
Yeah.
Cannot be just arbitrarily, I'll make it up, arbitrarily removed by a city manager.
Well, yeah, because that's how it is
a bad
for all
city
of the
manager.
commissions. It's not just us
Yeah,
as
that's-
CIC, it's for all of the commissions. All of the commissions have that in their bylaws that have staff.
I'd have to go back to look to see if all of them have that. There are certain planning commission, a regulatory component of the city, right? If we didn't have a planning commission, we'd have a hearings officer, right? So it's a core
I mean,
function.
other than the two quasi-judicial,
Right.
like the TAC and the PRAC and.
I would say, we don't have to resolve this tonight. I guess I would just say, if you feel like this is in a pretty good draft format, perhaps the city manager could take a review of it and look for anything that might
Yeah, if you
get
can
called
catch it
out or
before we have
anything
to send it to the attorney, then that'd be
Right,
great.
right.
And we can do that.
So if you're welcome for comments and feedback or something at this
Yeah, absolutely.
juncture.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's all. Thanks.
Okay, round table. We'll start with you, Bob.
I've spoken enough tonight.
Linda?
Okay. Our Kenema neighborhood rep for the Chiefs meeting was, at the last meeting, says that there were just a very low turnout. And so she asked me to come and talk to the other people and make sure that they get someone to go to the Chiefs meetings. So that's the fire department chiefs, the police department chiefs. They bring excellent information that comes down. But the last meeting, they just weren't any reps there. So if you get to your neighborhood meetings and have someone show up, that would be great to do.
Yeah, my person asked me the same thing, because I think it was our two neighborhoods that were there.
Yeah.
They only meet every other month from September to May. They take the summer off, and it's a very open and candid meeting. They have presentations. Usually the chief of police will ask somebody to come do a presentation from one of the departments in the police, but the police chief just lays it out how it really is and tells you, it's very informative. It's a great opportunity to then, and then the same, either the fire chief or one of maybe his PIO officer, Brandon sometimes will be there instead, but it's great information to then be able to take back to the neighborhood. And so one of the things that Gaffney is going to start doing is taking the notes from that meeting, and we're going to send it to all of our email lists that we have for our neighborhood, because that is a really informative meeting. And sometimes by the time you then have your next neighborhood, stuff's out of date. But yeah, they have there, the goal is to have somebody from the school district that comes. A lot of times it's Larry Didway himself, the superintendent. They have Judge McNeese usually there, or someone from the courts. They have someone from the church systems. They have, they have all these different people in the communities. They have someone from commerce, usually the guy from Grocery Outlet is there. And so it's just a great opportunity for some input of behind the scenes in more than just that we get here, at our level. So, yeah. It was very sad that here's the chief of police and the chief of the fire, and they're taking time to come to these meetings, and we're not supporting
It's at a pretty inconvenient time, right?
It's a Thursday night, Tuesday. Is it Tuesday or Thursday, Bob? What night's your TAC meeting?
It'll be Tuesday.
Tuesday. So sometime, it's a Tuesday at 7 at the police department, I think is when it is. So
Was that 3:30 or something?
no, it's in the evening, but it's the same night as some other meetings, so. Yeah.
And John Lewis did come to our Kenema Steering Committee meeting and talked to us about the 78, I think there's up to 89 now violations in Kenema. So anyway, and he's going to come to our meeting in February as well and talk to the community at large about this. So put out some fires before they get there. And then a little bit ago, when I was speaking about Pete Walter's report, I was representing 20 people who had been to our neighborhood meeting in February. And of the 20 meetings that were at that meeting in February and listened to Pete's report, we voted as a whole not to accept that. So that was not my opinion. That was the Kenema neighborhood meeting of 20 out of 200 people which were there. So it's a pretty good turnout.
John?
That was my first meeting being the chairperson. I ended up only having one speaker that night, but turned out really well because our police officer got in late. He was on call. So he came in, he spent some time just sitting, and we had nice conversations and question and answer. That worked out really well. And we had a great turnout. So in fact, we still have a bit of time. So the members just, asking questions, trying to get a feel of what's been happening, what we've heard the last year or so as the neighborhood and that. And they gave us a list of ideas who kind of speakers they wanted to have. So even though there's only one speaker, we did get a lot done. It was a neat little meeting.
Well, sometimes those are the best.
Yeah.
Good.
Hi, so Barclay Hills Neighborhood Association, Village of the Falls was planning on coming. They weren't able to come. Diane had the flu, so they are going to try to come in the future. The biggest thing is we have Dee Dee, who heads OC Parks Foundation, and we have 3 privately owned properties have heritage trees that are being nominated to the city commission, and that they were approved by the Natural Resource Committee. So, and then we have 3 coming up the pipeline that are old sequoias at Mountain View Cemetery, and so that's exciting. And then other than that, kind of got clarification about the CIC to residents, that we had new people come, and what kind of has been going on with the CIC and how, it's good to be involved. And we are having a steering meeting next week, so.
Yeah. Great. Okay.
Let's say.
Amen. I agree. And
ditto. Life is good.
So Park Place had a steering committee meeting on January 27th. Jonathan Waverly from the Parks Department gave us a presentation on the proposal for the new playground equipment. And we took a vote of the 2 options and are getting that in flight. We also had a presentation from our police liaison about speeds on Holcomb, and it's not nearly as bad as we thought it was. So that's good. We have another steering committee meeting. Nope. We have a general meeting on February 24th at 6:30 at the community building. It used to be the red community building, but it isn't red anymore.
Oh, it's not red.
No. And I don't know what's on the agenda there.
It'll be great.
It'll be a wonderful meeting. April 25th, City Cleanup Day, or whatever the new title is. We will be doing a park cleanup at the Park Place Park in preparation for having the new equipment moved in. So
that's exciting.
Those are our events.
Okay, Gaffney Lane met on January 9th, and we had a very fascinating presentation, I thought, about from Clackamas. I can't even remember what they're called. That's how exciting. No. It was Clackamas River Water Providers. They have the ability to tour their facilities. And so the Gaffney Lane, we're going to put together a tour because we thought that would be really cool. And they wanted us to remind everybody that they do send out new shower heads and aerators if you want them. And they have a really nifty little book called The Water Effect Plants of the Willamette Valley, water efficient plants of the Willamette Valley. So if you would like a copy of that book, you let them know, and you can sign up for their e-newsletter, and they're at crwp.org. So it was really interesting. We talk a lot about the sewer, but we don't always talk about the intake. Mm-hmm. And South Fork, which is where we get our water, they do not have charcoal filters. And that's why we get that algae taste in August and September that some of our neighbors in other jurisdictions that have other providers that have charcoal filters don't get. So that's something that we could encourage, and our South Fork Water, I don't remember which commission, is that the mayor that sits on that? Which commissioners sit on that board?
Mayor, Commissioner Rocky Smith, and Frank, Commissioner O'Donnell.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's made up of 3 commissioners from Oregon City and 3 commissioners from Westland.
Yeah, because that is a big complaint. I get a lot of calls in the summer. Why is my water so bad? When and that is why the water level, it's coming from the river. It's going to taste like the river. So if they can't filter it, it's going to taste like the river. So that's what's happening in Gaffney Lane. We did find out, we've been looking at speeds in our neighborhood too. It is interesting when you're standing on the side of the road and cars go by, you do think they're going a lot faster than they actually are. But we did find out that they clocked somebody on Gaffney Lane between Burgerville and the 3-way stop, or actually a 2-way, but maybe going to be a 3-way stop, just in this little stretch going 45 right off the bat. And amazing how fast they can go in no time at all. And we talked again about all of the changes that are coming. We sent out a email just to let everybody know that Northwest Natural is going to be doing work on Myers Road between Leland and 213 starting anytime now. So if you want to avoid Myers Road, that might be a good, once they start in. They're trying to do it ahead of the PGE's also working on Malala Avenue right now, moving trees. So you can get caught on Malala with flaggers, and then that'll continue on all the way through that streetscape project that they're working on. And then Myers will be having flaggers they're putting in a new gas line. So they're trying to get that done before the major tear up of Malala Avenue, but we're going to be surrounded by construction for a while. But when it's done, it's going to be beautiful. Dennis?
Kanema, well, we're getting our fair share of attention, and we have a community that has a certain self-consciousness about it. With this evening, we got a glimpse of it, and it'll carry over into next week with the commission meeting. The big issue, of course, is the right-of-way and the encroachments that have been designated in our area. An ongoing issue, and one that's difficult to manage because of the peculiarity of our little neighborhood. And so to address that is going to be quite a struggle, rightfully so. The other thing, of course, which was mentioned tonight, is the NROD overlay plan, which is seemingly beset with like issues that relate to quality of water and property rights. And I think we have some difficulties going through that because there's some things that look alarming to the way it was like dealt and handled, and how to go forward without some kind of concession is going to be quite monumental in terms of like the harmony of our community. It's unfortunate, as I said last week or last month, is that I don't think anybody in Kanema, irrespective of people who have other issues, is against quality of water, the water flow, and maintaining that preservation. Coupled with the fact of like the spurt of growth in our neighborhood and the issue related to how you build in Kanema, already an inordinate amount of like things one has to attend to with building permits and inspections and so on. We have some big issues, and it'll be an ongoing conversation that we'll have. Thank you.
Rita? First off, I need to make sure that everybody knows that Rocky Smith's grandma just passed away, and she and I became acquainted in 1960 at the Market PTA, so it was a loss to the McLaughlin neighborhood and to the whole community. we had our meeting before the last CIC meeting, and now we're not meeting till Thursday. And then it was normally going to be a steering committee meeting, but we're having a special meeting because there's going to be construction on the corner of Monroe and where the drugstore is, where Olson Drug used to be. And so we'll be meeting Thursday at the library at 7 if anybody's interested. I'm always hopeful that they'll figure out some way to have some parking and just to hear what they have to say. And I think it may be in the McLaughlin neighborhood, but it's our city. So, and then there is a new liaison between the homeless and the police department. And I haven't met him yet, but we certainly can thank the last one that we had. He did a wonderful job of interacting with homeless people. My writing's so bad I can't even read my own writing. Oregon City's clamping down more on speeders. And so you might keep that in mind. I don't think just being in CIC will excuse us. So anyway, that's all I have.
Thanks, Rita. Christina?
Yeah. So I have not given many updates on the Beaver Creek Road concept plan for a while because the Planning Commission's been kind of taking a couple items each meeting through the fall and winter. And we're getting to the point where there's going to be a preliminary package in front of the Planning Commission either this Monday or the 24th of February to make a formal recommendation to the City Commission on zone changes and map amendments and a new zoning map for the Beaver Creek Road concept plan area. Right now, there's a tentative schedule for the March City Commission work session to make a presentation, and after that, there'll be hearings. One kind of the last outreach option at the Planning Commission level is related to collector roads in the Beaver Creek Road concept plan, not Beaver Creek Road itself, but the larger roads inside the concept plan area. The original plan in 2004 had a 5-foot wide bike lane, which is kind of the older design. Nowadays, bike lanes are much wider and safer, as kind of identified either 8 feet or 9.5 feet with some extra either a physical separation or additional area for buffering. And so the original street cross-section may need to be updated to reflect that. And so we have some questions to the community about, do we reduce some of the elements inside the existing street cross-section? Do we add add to the right-of-way to allow the safer bike lanes? Do we try to split the difference between the two? So there's a survey currently out right now. It's been sent out to members of our e-blast. We have over kind of 180 members. It was sent out on our social media feed, and it's available on the Beaver Creek Road Concept Plan website, which you can get from the planning department on our city website, and under news and updates you'll see a link to the survey, and I'm also happy to send it for anybody who's interested, but that survey will be up till next week.
I do have one.
Okay, Rita?
This isn't exactly CIC, except it has to do with the homeless. Our church every Thursday night, but the first Thursday of the month. That's St. Paul's Episcopal Church on 9th and Washington, which is close to our Father's Heart and people. Anyway, we serve a free dinner, and I worked last Thursday, and we had 65 people. Wow. And what they want us to do is to make the community aware that we do serve this free dinner. They come in, they have a placemat, they have their silverware, there's waitresses that take their order, find out what they want. We have coffee, juice, water, and milk for beverages, and some of them come with other beverages on their breath, but that's...
When is that?
It's every Thursday except the first Thursday of the month. We did serve every Thursday, but it's the same crew in the kitchen every week, and it gives them a little bit of time off. And one of the fellows has a daughter that lives up at Fort Lewis who has triplets, and they like to go up there fairly often, and so that gives them a weekend to not have to work in the kitchen too. So
thank you.
Anyway, pass the word around if you know anybody. We'd like, single people that maybe don't get a full meal at home, that aren't homeless.
Yeah. Rachel?
I have one other thing to say real quick on the meeting concerning homeless. We have a lot of vacant homes or homes in transition to being worked on in Barclay Hills. And our last police report, particularly at 421 Malala Avenue, people were breaking into that property, and there was actually a like a fire, campfire inside the house that people were staying in there. And so, the police are struggling because they try to contact the LLC and they need actual permission or instructions from these LLCs. So the best thing I'd say is talking to police and all is start talking to your neighbors. If a house is empty, even in the nicer neighborhoods I see on Nextdoor, talk to your neighbors and text them and do whatever you need to do to communicate, because, someone can go in a house fast, utility there, and the house is occupied for long periods of time, and it's hard to get them out. And not because you want to be cruel or unkind, it's just if someone has no permission to be there, you want to look out for your neighbors.
They can rule.
Yeah. Rachel?
Thank you. The only item I wanted to make mention was the State of the City address that'll be given by our Mayor Dan Holliday. It's February 25th at 6 p.m. is when the doors open, and the program starts at 6:30. It's going to be held at the Museum of the Oregon Territory, 211 Tumwater Drive, Oregon City. An RSVP is required, and it's being sponsored by the Oregon City Chamber, PGE, and Oregon City. But if you want to RSVP, you can do that through the Chamber of Commerce. Here's their phone number, or you can probably look on their website, but their phone number is 503-656-1619. But I would go to their website if you want to RSVP, but I'm sure Christina can send out information, but if you want to put it on your calendars for the State of the City address, February 25th.
Thank you. Tony?
Or anything else?
Nothing else? Okay, anything else for the good of the order? All right, we are adjourned.